Does Mercy need a rework? That is what we're going to talk about today. I saw this talking point in my previous video's comment section where we pretty much have a confirmation from Alec Dawson that Farah is getting a readjustment, or in his words, it's a readjustment in his words, but it's basically a rework to her movement in order to make her more active. I don't know what he means by that. She's more than active enough, but I assume it's an excuse to basically say we want to divide Farah's overall power level to being a little bit more away from the flight, so she feels a little bit easier to counter. But amidst that, discussion, we did bring up the point that the reason Farah is in the spot that she is in is without doubt Mercy. Now, a lot of the points that I stated yesterday, they were a little bit all over the place, so I plan on clarifying them here. Now, yesterday's video was me just spitballing ideas. I find Mercy to be in a really, really good spot, really perfect spot. She has synergy with a lot of good DPS heroes. One of the most underrated ones that I plan on talking about in the near future is going to be the synergy with Genji that I feel like a lot of Mercy players don't understand. But that's basically Mercy players playing on hard mode, and 99% of them don't want to do that. Easy mode is hiding behind the hit scanner Farah and just hoping that they do everything. So in this discussion, there were some points that I threw out about Mercy and Farah, and I think there were some things that were slightly misinterpreted, where they were like, hey, you were always reasonable about Mercy. Why do you want her movement change and things like that, and all this type of stuff? And in that point of discussion, it was just a perspective of how to deal with it when Mercy interacts with Farah, not necessarily when she interacts with everybody else. Obviously, if we were to ever do something about Mercy's horizontal movement, then there should be power transfer to the rest of her kit. Although I don't think that is a solution. Like I said, in my personal opinion, a lot of people say that Farah isn't the issue, and the issue is actually Mercy. Although I'm like, while I do agree with this, I actually do agree that Mercy is the problem because of how she's able to get through. Like, she's able to erase Farah's mistakes, right? But I feel like we really don't talk enough about Farah's power in that comp. I feel like a lot of people just tend to gloss over that. Yeah, okay, it's fine because you can pick a hit scan and start pressuring the Farah, and she kind of loses value. But that doesn't happen every game. Even at the highest levels of play, that doesn't happen every game. The thing about Farah is basically Farah's problem right now. We're gonna do the same thing. We'll review it from the lens of high elo and low elo. Is in high elo, she relies a lot on map structure in order to be viable, and the Mercy. So it's like the two factors need to work out for her to work, and the directs have to hit, and her teammate has to follow up on her follow-up shot. So usually if you have like a dive tank, maybe Winston Doomfist, like they should be immediately running after the targets that you've pressured. Otherwise, they're gonna Suzu, they're gonna drop the mortality field, your value is gonna be negated, and it's going to get more and more difficult because Farah, relatively compared to everybody else, has if I'm not mistaken, relatively slower firing projectiles in Overwatch 1. I think she had faster ones, but regardless, that's not the point. The point with Farah is Farah is not rewarded for landing directs. A lot of Farah players rely on splash damage to get the job done for them. I feel like one particular change that, without touching Mercy or Farah's movements, that we could address this situation about Farah and Mercy is by allowing Farah to get away with landing directs, rewarding them for that, and just reducing the splash damage to almost to a good, like maybe like a little bit more than what it is, because there's no denying that the splash damage feels like an easy get out of jail, no need for skill card for a lot of low elo players. In turn, what happens is that I would reduce it by 30%, or 25%, simply because then to bring that same value of splash damage back, Mercy could be damage boosting it. So you know how now Mercy makes up for the fact that Farah can't do that anymore. Like that level of strength in her gameplay, especially for low elo players, allowing for a lot more room for counterplay. Now, kind of getting this Farah part out of the way, because we are talking about Farah and Mercy as a duo comp, and this includes Mercy. So this is where Mercy comes in, where she's allowed to kind of keep her kit the way it is, and damage boost can enable Farah to reach those breakpoints again that Farah has at the moment, right? And like you can slightly increase the speed of the rockets or something, or decrease it so that it's easier to kind of lead your shots or something. This would be more of a experiment. Like I said, I still don't understand why the balance team doesn't experiment with the actual experimental card and see how things work out, with more wacky changes that are like all over the place, see how people feel about it, and then maybe go forward. So yeah, so that's how I would approach the farmers situation, is maybe we don't need to address the whole pocketing idea, Maybe the way the development team is approaching is making Farah's movement all over the place is a good idea. I think they've butchered Mercy's movement stuff a little bit too much. If you guys don't know, she also has some movement bugs similar to Doomfist. Not entirely similar, but there are some things that have slipped in, and the Mercy community is very upset about it. And I feel like Mercy is a character that isn't broken. I don't think she's OP. I think if you struggle with Mercy in 2023, you have a serious skill issue. Like Mercy and Moira are two characters for me where Moira especially is like, if you struggle against this character, you need to really sit down and evaluate what you're doing in that game. Like these two are really not that difficult to deal with. They don't really bring too much to the table. Most Mercies, I'm serious about this, 95% of Mercy players are actually heal bots, and they are not damage boosting that hit scan that you think is oppressing your lobby. They are just sitting behind them and they're not moving. They're just like, they got their head peeked out. There's many ways to approach the situation. I feel like I generally might need to do a guide on how to counter a Mercy pocketed duo, because I feel like it's time to address this going forward. I see a lot of complaints from the casual community that, well, you don't understand, Mr. Streamer. It's not that easy to counter because they're just chunking away at my HP. All right, pick a character that can one shot and delete them from across the map, or like negotiate with your support and enable yourself or with your tank and go after them. Like they're putting in teamwork. Granted that it's a lot easier to do, but then you guys should put in the teamwork to go deal with them, right? It's still at its core like a duo comp that requires two people to work together. Granted that one is not that hard to execute, and maybe countering it might be a little bit more stressful, but if you're not willing to take that challenge, are you actually a good player or not? Right? Because in higher elos, like nobody's complaining about Mercy. If anybody does, honestly, it's like you have a serious skill issue. Like yeah, Mercy can be annoying. I've always said this. Like I say Mercy is annoying, but she's not meta defining at the moment, at least, right? Like she's really, really annoying. She like really good Mercy players are like one in every 55 games you'll get a really good Mercy player that knows how to use her movement, even in quick play. Like these Mercy players are just heal botting, not bringing the value that they're supposed to. They're not that hard to deal with. So in my personal opinion, no, I don't think we need to rework Mercy. Uh, Potentially, there is an argument to be made that perhaps Resurrect could be reworked into a new ability that could allow Mercy a room to make some more unique plays. I honestly, there was a thing that they showed off in a PvE behind the scenes years ago where Mercy had like this beam that when it came down to the floor, it booped people all over the place. I feel like if in the future, if they ever want to nerf her movement, they should give her a tool like that. So it's like, okay, you get dive, you use this laser beam attack that shoots a projectile, boops everybody away, and then you can maybe use your whatever form of flight that you have. Then of course that is not the direction that a lot of Mercy players will want to go, but this is implying if the balance team, again not me, if the balance team ever wants to approach reworking Mercy, but I don't think they will. I think they've kind of said like they found her sweet spot and they're just going to leave her alone for a while. So don't expect any Mercy changes. And personally from my end as well, I don't think Mercy needs a rework. I think she's fine as is. Damage boost has also been brought to a pretty good situation right now, and honestly the game is in such a weird state right now and going forward that Mercy is just kind of the most like meh support there is. Like she's not at the level of being Lucio trash tier, but she's like she's B tier at best. Like if a Mercy is with you and you're making it work, she's B tier. Valkyrie is like pretty decent out. Like it's a budget transcendence more often than not. It's just to help you like sustain yourself in a fight and maybe slightly play more aggressively than you would in a normal team fight. But that's just about it. Like she doesn't really bring anything super game breaking or super frustrating. Again, I can fully understand from low elo players perspective, because you will see characters like Mercy and Moira down there more often than not, because again they like, let's be real, they're easier to play compared to some other stuff. So I understand the frustration that, well, I can't keep up with this thing. But to those players I have only one message, right? If you cannot keep up with dealing with Mercy and Moira, what makes you think that you deserve to climb higher and start dealing with Anas and Iliari sniping you from across the map, Baptiste out dueling you from range and all this type of stuff? Trust me, if you're just worried about some few characters running around the map, when you start climbing up, you get a big reality check about support players, because I would rather deal with supports that are good at running around, okay, than supports that can just delete me in the fraction of a second and do more damage than me. And they're in the support role, not the damage role. That brings us to a final point: is the damage boost. I think Mercy's healing is fine. I don't think they should ever change the values. It's in a really good spot. And like I said, I would much rather we see a healing decrease over time to the support characters and not a healing creep. But I fear we may be going to a state of the game where eventually we might see power creep. I mean, we are seeing power creep here and there, but maybe more of it could be on the horizon. We have some we do know some heroes that might be getting changes in season 7. Brigitte is one of them. I'm really concerned. I think Brig is okay. It's just that this wasn't her meta, and this is the problem with the balance team. They just think that, oh, this character's not being played in this meta. Okay, we need to overbuff them, and then the next season comes and now the character's like completely broken. And I really, really am scared because Brigitte is not good against poke and brawl. She coincidentally works really well with dive and really good against dive, and that's usually where you want to play her as this like babysitter for Ana, who tosses armor packs to her DPS and helps top up the tank every now and then. And just kind of peels for the Ana and plays this like little mid range, right? So in that regard, I feel like now that we're kind of like we will see a meta shift away from poke. Funnily enough, Mercy was really good here. And sorry, I kind of moved away from my main point, but it was the final topic I wanted to discuss on Mercy. Is I think her heals are fine. I think her ult is fine. Res is annoying, but it's not that game breaking. We have much worse problems in the game. And trust me, when there's a Mercy on your team nowadays, people with that Mercy on their team find themselves to be at a disadvantage simply because Mercy doesn't bring that much utility, right? Other than turning one DPS to a raid boss, the tank gets to suffer a lot because he might not have certain immortality based abilities that can really help him get in and get out. He might not have an Ana nade or a life weaver pull, immortality field, Suzu. These are things that a tank might need. But when you divide the resources with Mercy and give it to a DPS, you're putting a lot of faith in that one DPS player that, okay, go do your job. So just by that nature, in my personal opinion, in the current state of 5v5, it just kind of balances out Mercy for me. Again, I don't see her as a hindrance. I don't see her as a problem. Um, I think she's fine. And in regards to the damage boost topic, I feel like this 25% that they found, along with the range nerfs that mostly hit scans have gotten, have actually done a pretty decent job at balancing out the current state of what hit scans were able to do. If anything, I think hit scans, Cassidy at least for sure, is a little bit weak. I think Cassidy could use a little bit love. We know he's getting it next season. Most likely will just be a fall off range increase. So he can actually feel like he's shooting a pistol and not a water gun. And that's my topic, and that's kind of my perspective on the Mercy rework. I don't think Mercy needs a rework. If anything, I would much rather that they give Mercy power back in her movement just a little bit, because I do think the game is slightly speeding up again. Like, we are moving away from the slow poke meta, and potentially with Somber coming out, I could see us going to a brawl meta. Mei is also getting back her 100 DPS freeze gun. While she is losing the freeze passive and everything, that iteration of Mei was really strong, and I feel like it doesn't get enough credit. And this new Sombra might play very similarly, playstyle wise, to Reaper and Mei, where she just kind of hugs her brawl tank and just focuses on deleting the other tank and then walking in. So I feel like we might be on the horizon of a meta like that. And again, it's one of those things where Mercy will just fade in and fade out. Like, she's just that type of a character. She's really good at all levels of play in her job. She's not like Moira, where the higher up you go, Moira kind of begins to fade away, because again, you want utility and not just healing. Mercy's utility with damage boost will always be really, really strong, and at the moment, Fire Mercy is strong, but with the game going more towards brawl and everything, brawl just outpaces Mercy and what she's able to do. Dive is something that Mercy is good in, but again, sometimes when you're playing dive, like, why, like, Mercy can be good. You can enable a Genji, maybe you play a Fire Mercy dive comp, but by that regard, you're better off playing some other variation of dive with Ana Kiriko, Ana Brig, Ana Lucio, Ana Zen, even though it might be a bit weird. But there's so much like viability in the support role right now, that Mercy just kind of like, she's just kind of there. She's vibing. Like, she's annoying at best, but she's not as broken as people make it out to be. And I felt like we needed to sit down and just kind of clean that up. Yes, Fire Mercy is annoying, but we need to think about Pharah's rockets and Pharah's movement. I feel like if we approach rewarding Pharah for hitting the directs, it might solve the Pharah problem a lot better, because then, like, low elo players in, playing the Pharah are not going to be rewarded for their trash rockets. And then if we make her movement a little bit more controlled and less erratic in the way that she moves or something, again, it can allow for more room of counterplay, and in turn, to balance it out, we can give Pharah the blue HP bar, the shields, so that she can regen over time without needing a pocket Mercy all the time, therefore defeating and slowly, hopefully over time, allowing Pharah to be played in other compositions that don't necessarily need the Mercy, and she can have her own individual identity, and then it allows Mercy to just kind of vibe and do her own thing. That's my perspective, but let me know what you guys think. Do you think Mercy needs a rework? Do you think, yeah, Mercy's annoying, yeah, she can be strong in certain circumstances, but she's not game breaking? Like, some of the current supports are. Like, there's no denying that at the moment, characters like Ana, Bap, Iliari, Life Fever, Kiko, like these five in particular. I could talk about Brig and Moira, but I want to see what's happening in the next meta before I talk about them, especially since we know Brig is getting a tuning. But it's most likely going to be a buff. I'm telling you, it's going to be a buff, and I can see them buffing up her shield. And if it's not a buff up to that and it's something else, I will genuinely be surprised, because there's no way they nerf Brig since she was kind of AFK this season. So Ana, Bap, Iliari, Kiriko, Life Fever, these five supports are really, really strong. Moira and Brig are in the middle, and Lucio and Zen are just kind of here and there. Although I could see Zen easily coming back for the Brawl meta in the next season as well. So that's my thoughts on the current state of Mercy and thoughts on some supports. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment sections down below.